Okay, so hi, welcome back. So in this video, I'm quickly going to go over what branches are. Now on Git, or the whole reason of version control is, as the name sort of implies, in that you can sort of keep track of different versions of the code. And versions not meaning just releases like 1.1, 1.2, but versions meaning this engineer is working on this feature, this engineer is working on this feature, and you want to sort of be able to separate the development of these features into separate like file systems, whatnot, so that they don't clash with each other. And so also that when you want to integrate these changes back into your code base, I'm going to say master code base, and this will make sense in a minute, that this is all done in a way that is sort of hassle-free, like back in the days of taking of a USB stick, or probably like a CD or a floppy disk with an actual copy of the code on it, and sort of sharing this around. It becomes very tedious, or sending files across email. Now I see a lot of students still doing this, that they'll literally share folders or copies of the code, but if you just understand a few basic concepts of Git, this whole process becomes a lot easier. So the benefit of a branch is that it does sort of let you to sort of take your code base and split it into parallel development streams, I guess you could call it. And then it will also allow you to sort of take a branch or make a copy of your code, and as you add a new feature and you essentially make the code base unstable by breaking certain things, it will also allow you to always keep a stable copy of the code. And so the whole idea of when you're implementing a new feature, you sort of take a copy of the code, you branch and make a new branch, you do what you need to do, and once it's stable and tested and everything, you can then put it back into your main branch where the code should always be stable, right? So this sort of core branch, this main stable branch, is referred to as master. Now master, I mean, while not every repository has a master because you can change its name, generally the master branch is the stable core code base for any repository. And as such, it should be kept in a stable state. And this sort of generally means you don't develop on master. Like if you modified the README, sure, you can do that directly on master. But the whole idea of implementing features, fixing bugs, you should branch from master, do some changes, and then you merge them back into it. Now merging we'll go through in a minute. But the whole idea of branching is that that you take any changes and you sort of keep them separate from this like stable main branch of your code, right? So once you've created a branch and you're on that branch, any commits that you're making are actually done on this branch, and then when you merge them, they're sort of added back to the main branch. This might be a bit confusing. I'll make some examples in a minute. I'll do some examples to show this, right? So as I mentioned, this is sort of like the general best practice. Now, because features or fixes should be developed on separate branches, one thing I want to sort of emphasize, especially for students, that a branch is generally related to a feature or a fix and not a person. So I see very common that's like a group of two students will develop, and there'll be like let's say an Alex branch and then a Bob branch, right? And this doesn't really make that sense if you think about it. And if Bob wants to work on the feature that Alex is working on, then he'll check out Alex's branch, and it gets kind of confusing as to what each branch actually has on it. But if you create a list of all the features to be implemented, and let's say you have 4 features, then you create a branch for each feature. And then if Bob wants to work on feature 1 and Alex is on feature 2, but then they swap, then they just have to sort of check out the different branches, and they can continue working on these features, right? And so once these features are then finished, they then merge these branches in. And so it's sort of a good way of keeping track of what code on what branch is for what. And so the general, I'll get to this in a minute, the general naming convention is that you sort of add some sort of an identifier like feature, hyphen, underscore, whatever, and then some sort of a name. So that when you look at your branches, you can see, oh, this is a feature branch, on here is some feature being made, or this is a fix branch, or bug fix branch, this branch is fixing some bug, right? So the commands to actually create a branch is, the basis one is to create the branch, git branch, and then the branch name. So if I wanted to create a branch called Alex, I would say git branch Alex. And And then if I want to go to that branch, actually change to that branch, I would then use the checkout, because checkout is the word that's, or the command that tells Git that you want to take your virtual file system and move it to the other branch. So all the files on your system in your directory are actually a copy, or they actually reflect what is on that branch, right? To make this a lot quicker, if you're creating a branch for the first time, you can combine the two and add the -b option to the checkout command to sort of create, to do this thing a lot quicker, right? So now I will go to my new repository and I'll create a branch. So git branch, we'll make it a feature, and we'll say adding another line. Right, so we want to add another line to our file, right? Now, if we look git branch, it will list you all the branches that you have on your local system. And if we add the all option, it'll add the branches that we have on the remote. So essentially, you have the origin master branch, like this is on the remote origin master, and then you also have the head branch, but this is just pointing to master, and it's kind of saying that the master branch is the most current and it's the core tracking point of the Git repository. So similar to commits, the remote is not made aware of your branches until you push them to it, until you tell them that they're there, right? So it's a very similar, it's the same as committing using git push. The remote is the same because we have only the one remote origin, but where I used to use master for the master branch, I now want to tell it that I have this branch called feature, and if I tab complete, I have feature adding another line, right? And so if I push this, I'll actually create a new branch here, and you'll see this. A new branch was created, and if we go into our repository, we can now go into the branches tab and we'll see this here. And you can, if these numbers here will tell us how far behind or ahead of master this branch is in terms of commits, right? This is probably not very important at the moment, but now we have this other branch, but I've created it, but I'm not actually on this branch. If I use git status, you'll see that I'm still on master because I haven't used git checkout to check this branch out. So if I go git checkout, feature, adding another line, and I run git status again, as well as my command line actually shows me the branch I'm on, you'll now see that we're on this branch, feature adding another line, right? So let's actually go ahead and create this feature. Stop clicking, please. So we can, where are you? Sorry, touch screens can be a bit tricky. So now let's modify our file, and we'll add a new line to the bottom, right? So then, this is the feature line. So we've created a new line. Now if we look at git status, we'll see that there was changes made to our file. We look at git diff, we can see that we added this final line, and now we want to commit this. So, well, let's say we added the final line to fix or to implement a feature, right? Whatever. Oh, first we need to add our file. And then I can commit it, and now I've created my commit. So if we look on git log, we'll see that I have on my branch here this commit, but origins feature, or like origins branch feature adding another line is not, hasn't got this commit yet because I haven't pushed it. So I need to git, oh, this touch screen is driving me nuts. Git push origin feature. And so now I'm pushing my branch, and we'll see if we go into our branch here and go into the commits on our branch that we have this new commit. Now, if we go back to our branches page, we'll see that there's a 1 here. So there's one commit on this branch that is not existing on master. And so we'll see what this means when we get to merging, which I'm pretty sure will come up as the next section. Yes. So I think actually before I go through these slides here, I will stop there and sort of include the rest of that into merging. So See you in the next video.